Have you wondered how different countries communicate, how they practice marriage, or how many people are in a family? Communication varies from culture to culture. So do marriages and families. Nepal is a great example of how different countries communicate. I want to explain how they communicate, how they practice marriage, and how their family lifestyle works. In Nepal, both verbal and nonverbal communication is used. They like to use indirect communication because it can prevent them from using confrontation. When they're having a conversation with you, they will always reply yes, even though sometimes it doesn't mean that they agree with every word that you say. While it is frowned upon to ask somebody, usually a woman, how old she is or how much she weighs, people in Nepal can ask personal questions like those, even though they're not trying to pry. They don't like to raise their voices, even for an emotion like sadness or anger or excitement. They still don't raise their voices and will speak in a low tone. They don't like people to make fun of their accents because it can be considered very rude. In nonverbal communication, public display of affection can be strict in some cultures, but it can happen. In Nepal, affection between two people of the same gender can take place. It can take place because it is more about friendships instead of relationships. Personal space isn't much of an issue, but it can happen between two people of the opposite gender. Eye contact is a necessity to communication, but in Nepal, their eye contact is limited if they speak to somebody who have a higher status, like somebody who is older or somebody who has a high-paying job. If you politely refuse something, you would put one hand up in front of them and they would acknowledge it right away. In Nepal, people don't like to be touched on their heads or their feet because it is really offensive to them. Even though it is normally rude to talk over somebody during a conversation because it can imply an interruption, people in Nepal will talk over you during a conversation even though they're not trying to be rude. Nepal has a total of 123 languages. Their national language is Nepali, but they can speak other languages like Mathili, Bhojpuri, Tharu, Tamang, Newari, Bajika, Magar, Doteli, and Urdu. In Nepal, marriages are usually arranged by the bride's parents and the groom's parents. They can also make all of the decisions for the wedding. The wedding is paid with a dowry by the bride's parents. Types of marriage that are practiced in Nepal are monogamy, polygamy, polyandry, and hypergamy. Monogamy is the most common kind of marriage, and hypergamy is the least common kind of marriage. After the wedding, the bride and the groom will live with the husband's family or extended family, or in some cases, the bride and the groom will live with their respective relatives. Like the bride would live with her parents and the groom would live with his parents. However, the bride and the groom would still be able to see each other. In the family, Nepal is patrilineal. Couples would live with the husband's family until the father passes away. It can be years or it can be decades. When the father dies, the brothers would have to split the patrimony. The brothers and their wives can have a hard time getting along. So in conclusion, Nepal has verbal and nonverbal communication. Their national language is Nepali. Marriages are arranged. The weddings are paid with a dowry. Nepal is patrilineal, and couples would live with the husband's family until the father passes away. And that is communication, marriage, and family in Nepal.